It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to talk about RocketChat. Now, it has been a long time since I've done a video on setting up RocketChat, and I've been using my RocketChat server for years, and I have upgraded it and migrated it and moved it, and I've done so many things with it. But I thought, this is a great tool when you're talking about building a business on open source or building an MSP on open source. If you combine something like RocketChat with something like Jitsi Meet, you get a really incredible, complete communication platform that you can use not only internally with your users and your personnel, but with your clients as well, to have a nice, easy way to communicate with you. And you could even set this up and host a system for them so that they can have internal communication at their business, and you can help them keep it running and make sure that it's up and running and set and that it has good practices installed. So I wanted to go through setting up RocketChat with you guys today. We're going to make it a part of this MSP business that we're building, and they have paid services, they have paid versions, they have upgrades. They're things that you don't have to do. You get a ton out of the box with RocketChat. That's the reason I really like it. They've really kept it in that open source concept, but they are building a business as well on the RocketChat platform. So make sure that if you like this, if it's working for you, if your customers like it, that you consider going out there once you're successful, once you're out there making good money, and say, hey, you know what? Let's get you set up on the RocketChat system so that business can also make money and keep the open source version going. Now I'm going to go through the setup of it with you. I want to tell you that they do have some great instructions here, so I'll link to these instructions in my show notes as well, and of course I'll have the instructions for how they are right now in my show notes. Now, sometimes my instructions get out of date. You guys are going to notice this. It's hard to keep these things up to date, but as you notice things that are not accurate anymore, let me know. I try to go update them pretty quickly if I can confirm that everything is correct. I try to do that as well. But right here, they've got some great instructions. So getting Docker installed. If you have a server but Docker's not installed on it yet, you can use this command to install Docker. And it'll install Docker on pretty much any Linux distribution for you, and it installs Docker Compose with it these days. You don't have to do a separate thing to install Docker Compose, so that's really nice. Docker Compose comes with Docker. The next thing they want you to do is get some information, the who am I. You can do that if you want to. We don't have to. We're just going to set up that our user that we use, and we don't want that to be root. We're going to set it up as a non-root user. That our non-root user is part of the Docker group. That's what this command does right here. And then right here, they just tell you to reboot so that those changes take effect. So it should be pretty fast if you're using a VPS or if you're using like a container, like an LXD or Incus container. If you're using a VM, it may take a few more seconds, but it's not very long. Just reboot the system real quick and you'll be ready to go. Once you've got that, we're going to go out and grab the docker compose.yaml file from RocketChat, and then we'll go through that together and we will edit it and we will make sure that everything is ready to go. And I hope you kind of understand where do you need to put the values that make sense for your business and your domain and things like that. And then once we're ready, we're just going to run the docker compose up-d just like we do with every other application. Now, so if you remember, in the previous episodes of our MSP stuff, we've already set up several things. So we set up our proxy, so our Nginx proxy manager that proxies our traffic around to our different servers. Now I've got several servers set up out here on DigitalOcean. I have an affiliate link in the description for DigitalOcean. I want to be completely transparent about this. If you click on that link and you sign up for DigitalOcean and then you stay with their service after the free trial, you'll get like I think it's $50 or $100 worth of credit for 60 days to try out all their stuff. So they've got a ton of different things they can do besides just servers, but the servers are great. They're like $6 a month, $4 a month, $12 a month. Just depends on what you pick. But they charge you by the minute if you don't leave it up for a month. So it's really nice because it comes down in price very quickly that way. So you can try out a lot for $50 or $100. But if you sign up and you get that credit and then you stay with them and you start paying them, I also will get a credit. I think I get a $25 credit for each person who signs up and stays with DigitalOcean and starts paying them. Now, if you sign up for a trial, you try it out, you're like, yeah, this isn't for me or I don't like it. You want to move to a different host, that's totally fine. There's Linode, there's Hetzner, there's Volter, there's tons of them. If you do that and you leave before you pay them, I just don't get a credit. That's all that happens. It's not a big deal. If I get a credit, that's great. It helps pay for these servers. If I don't get a credit, it comes out of my pocket. It comes around from things like Patreon. It comes around from things like you guys doing a PayPal payment to me. Anything like that too. Those donations help pay for all this stuff. So I want you to know that. And I do want to say thank you so very much to all of my patrons over at Patreon, to everybody who sends me a buy me a coffee or a buy me a beer on PayPal. To everybody who just sends in a comment that says you appreciate the episode, man, I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate that stuff, and I love to see those things coming in. It means so much to me every time I see that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not already doing it and you want to, check out the links in the show notes in the description. I'll have my links for Patreon there where you can go become a patron, or for pay me through PayPal if you just want to send me money for a coffee or a beer. All those things go back into the show and back into the production of all this content that you guys get to help you learn about open source. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you haven't already done it, click on the thumbs up, click on the subscribe button. It just helps the video get out there more on YouTube, and it helps other people find my channel who might be interested in open source. All right, now let's get into the install of RocketChat. All right, when we look at the instructions from RocketChat, they're pretty straightforward. So I've already got a lot of this done on the server that I'm going to use. So I'm going to go log into that server, and I'm just going to go and grab this command right here, which is going to pull down the stuff we need from RocketChat. I'm going to go over here to my terminal, and I'm going to just put that up at the top and make it a little bit bigger font for you guys. And I'm going to SSH into this server. All right, I'm in this server. Now, the first thing we should always do, whether it's a brand new server or a server you've been running for a while, and this is a server that I've got several things running on. So if I just do a docker ps, you can see I've got a lot running on here. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do sudo apt update 2 ampersands and then sudo apt upgrade -y. And that's going to just run the updates and upgrades for this server. I'm going to put in my super user password there so that can run through. It's always good to do this on a pretty regular basis, once a week or once every month, something like that, just fairly regular so that you get these updates done. It gets you the security updates you might need as well for these things. So you want to make sure you're keeping these up to date, because there's constantly new things that come out that could threaten the security of your platform, and you want to keep that as protected as possible. So let's just reboot this thing real quick. So we're going to do sudo reboot. We'll let that reboot, and then we'll jump back into that terminal here in about 30 seconds. All right, we're logged back in. So if I just do an ls, you'll see that I have a Docker folder here, and it's right there. So I'm just going to do cd docker, and we'll do another ls, and you can see I've got Zabbix and Samad, both starting with a Z. But we're going to do that git command that we just copied, and we will paste it in there. And we'll do an ls, and that pulled down a compose.yaml file. So we're just going to do ls-al, and if you look, it pulled down the compose.yaml, and then we've got to create an env file or pull it down. So first we're going to say mkdir RocketChat. So now we're going to move that compose.yaml file into our RocketChat folder. So we're going to say move mv compose.yaml into RocketChat, just like that. And if we do an ls, you'll see it's not there anymore, so we'll cd RocketChat, and I'll clear that out. And if we do an ls, there's our compose.yaml. So they provide us an example.env file, and in GitHub, the easiest thing is click on the raw button right here, and then we can just do Control-A for all, Control-C to copy. And then we can go back in here. We're going to create a file. We're going to say nano.env. Now the little dot in front of it means this is a hidden file. So we're going to hit enter. We're going to do Control-Shift-V to paste in those variables they already had. Now they try to tell you like, hey, here's what you need to know, or here's the information we're going to need in order to make this run. So we'll go through this in just a minute. I don't use Trafic as a reverse proxy, so we don't even need this section actually. So we're going to uncomment this one for MongoDB version, and then up here the host port, we're just going to uncomment that. Now I'm just going to leave it at the normal 3000 because that's fairly common for node applications, but you can change it if you want to. I'm just going to leave it at 3000 for now because we're going to use a reverse proxy to get to this in a little bit. The Mongo version, I'm going to put this at 5.4. So we're out of there. Let's do nano compose.yaml, and let's just see what all's in here. So again, they've got this section of labels for traffic. We don't really need this if you're not going to use the traffic reverse proxy. If you are, keep it. I'm not. So I'm going to get on this line for that one that says labels there, and I'm going to hit Control-K to delete each line as we go. So when you look at a file like this, under environment, all of these things that are in all caps are things that they expect you to have set up as an environment variable. But the way that this is set up, it's actually saying, hey, use this environment variable if it's there, and then this colon says, if not, use this, which is MongoDB : //. Then it says, and next, use the MongoDB advertised host name, and then again, colon, if not, use MongoDB in its place. So it's kind of telling you like, hey, try to use these variables, but if you don't have them, use this in place. The nice thing about this is as you learn more about RocketChat, you'll learn that your Mongo database does not have to be on the same server as your RocketChat system, so as the actual application. So it's important for you to understand that you could set these up so that you have a Mongo database on a whole different server, and this would be the host name of that server. And then you could set up whether or not there's a port that's different, if it's not going to use the standard port, and so on and so forth. So you can change a whole lot of things about this, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's always best to just leave these alone, so basically as they are. So it's going to set up this Mongo URL. It's going to say it's MongoDB : //, and then it's going to look for MongoDB. So if we look down here, you're going to see this section called MongoDB. That's what this right here is referring to. So it's saying, hey, if I don't give you a specific host name or URL, just check to see if that other service exists with this name and use it. So in this case, it's going to, because we're going to set it up that way. Next, it's going to check to see if it's on this port. We're not going to change the port, so it'll be like that. It's fine. And then it's saying, hey, call the database RocketChat. Make sure it's a replica set. That's just a MongoDB thing, which says it's got a replica set that it uses. And then it does this oplog URL that looks very similar. So it's also got this feature where you have this oplog that kind of says, here's things that have changed. And MongoDB is going to be using that to tell the RocketChat system, hey, somebody just put in a message, or hey, somebody just notified you of something, or hey, somebody just pinged you. So you'll get those things. So all that stuff, you don't need to change, to be honest. Now they've got this part that says root URL. So, and then here's the host port. So remember I set that to 3000. There it is. It's already set to 3000. Now we can go set this value in our other env file, and we should. So we're going to do that, and we're going to set this one for port, and the one for host port, we're going to make sure it's set. We've got the release. I'm not going to set the release. We'll leave that alone. Mongo URL. So this one could be super useful. It doesn't have to be anything different than what they've got, so we can just leave that one commented out. The oplog URL, same thing, but this is where you would set those URLs. Again, if you're going to run Mongo on a different server, if it has a different IP address or different host name, you would want to put that in here. Our bind IP, the IP to bind the process to. We're not going to do that one either right now. We're just going to leave it as it is, but our root URL we're going to set. And we want this to be the actual URL to the system that we're going to be running, that we want people to access this from. So if I said I want this to be chat.sysmainit.com, then that's what I would make. So I'm going to do https://chat.sysmainit.com. That's what I want this to be. Now you would set yours to whatever you want. It could be rocketchat.sysmainit.com or whatever yours is. If you're example.com, you'd be chat.example.com or discuss.example.com or holla.example.com. Whatever you want, you can set that, but you need to own the domain name that you're setting it for, and you need to be able to set up a subdomain for that so that it points to the right server. When we go down to port right here, there, we're going to put in 3000. And we'll just go remove that hashtag. So any of these you want to use, you want to remove that hashtag. Host port, we've already got it set to 3000. That's great. And then MongoDB version, again, we're going to use 7.0.12, but I don't think it's going to work. We'll just have to see if it does. It may be too new. We'll find out. Maybe I'm wrong, hopefully. So I'm going to save that with Control-O and then Enter, Control-X to exit. And if we do an ls, you see there's no .env, so we have to do an ls-a. And you can see now the .env file, because again, the dot means that it's a hidden file. That's how it has to be named in order for Compose to pick it up. Let's go back into our Compose file. So let's move down. Oh yeah, I took out the traffic stuff. That's what I should have saved. So let's just get rid of this again. Control K just gets rid of the whole line. And I'm just going to do a Control O to save those changes real quick so it doesn't bother me next time. And then we've already set all these things, so we don't have to mess with them. So we're going to go down here and it says ports, and it's got this bind IP, which is 0000, which means we'll accept basically connections in any way, and it's going to be on port 3000. So we're just going to leave that one as it is. That's great. We're going to go down to the MongoDB section, and we've got the MongoDB data, which is going to be connected to this bitnami / MongoDB. So it's going to try to use MongoDB version, and it's going to try to grab 5. I think 5 is probably better than 7.0.12, so we'll probably go back and switch that to 5. It'll be fine. But right here, I want to make a little change. I'm going to put /. What that / means is, instead of just putting this in a thing called MongoDB data that's going to be kept in like opt, or /var, /live, /docker, /container, /volumes, or something like that, it's going to put it right here in this same exact location where the compose file is at, which is great because it keeps it all in that RocketChat folder that we created earlier, and I just prefer that. It makes it easier to back things up and easier to keep things together. So as we move down, this MongoDB replica set mode is primary. That's great. We're not going to change any of these things about how MongoDB works. We're just going to leave it as is. So we're just going to keep moving right down, and everything should be set. So we're going to save our changes with Control-O and then Enter, and then Control-X to exit. We're going to go back into that file, .env, and down here for the version, let's change that from 7.0.12 to 5.0, because that's what RocketChat is saying should be the version if we don't put in a version. So at least 5.0 is good. We could probably do a newer version, but let's just start with that one. So we're going to do Control-O again to save, and then Control-X to exit. All right, we should be set. We've got all of our environment variables set up. We've got our Docker Compose file set up. So let's just do a Docker space compose pull. What this is going to do, it should pull down RocketChat and the Mongo version we need. Now, depending on your VPS and the system you're using and your internet connection speed, this may go fast, this may take a little bit longer, it just depends. So be patient while it gets all this stuff done. These applications can be kind of large sometimes, and when they're containerized, it includes a lot of the stuff that they need to run already, so it seems like it takes longer, but the nice thing is everything should be there. All right. Now, we need to go set up our reverse proxy. If you're like me and you've already set up Nginx Proxy Manager, then we need to go log into that and just set up a reverse proxy pointing to this server on port 3000. So if you don't know your IP, you can do IP-BR-4 and then A. It's going to show you a bunch of them, but you should be able to pick out the IP address that you actually want. And in this case, I actually want the WT0 address of this server, so I'm going to use that one right there. That's inside of my VPN, which is what I want. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'm going to right click and copy, and then I'm going to open up my browser again, and I'm going to go to my, and it's going to load that up, and of course I will log in with my credentials there. Now when we get in here, we're just going to add another entry, and I'll enlarge this for you guys, but we're going to say exactly what we put a while ago, chat.sysmainit.com, and we're going to hit tab so it turns into that little chip. And then right here, we're going to put in the IP address we just copied. And then here, we're going to put port 3000. We're going to say block common exploits, and we definitely want WebSocket support for something like RocketChat. We're going to jump over to the SSL tab, and we're going to drop this down and say request a new SSL certificate, force SSL, HTTP2 support, HSTS for both of these should be enabled, okay? And then finally, we're going to tick this little box down here that says I agree to Let's Encrypt and make sure our email's there, and we're going to click Save. Now, it's going to try to go out and hit this server. We've already got some fallback things that'll happen because it's like, I don't know where that is. If it doesn't fail and it passes, that's great. We're just going to start our server. It's going to be running. If it doesn't, we'll go start our server. We'll come back and we'll do that again. Now, if it passed, it's fine. But if we try to go there, there's not going to be anything running yet. So we can just click on that and you can see, hey, bad gateway. So it's basically like, I don't know what to do with this request because we haven't started our server yet. So let's go click on that. Let's do Docker space compose up-D. Then we're going to do 2 ampersands. Docker space compose logs-F. So what this says is, hey Docker Compose, bring up this set of containers from these images I just pulled down and run them in the background detached or as a daemon. Then after you do that, I want to see the log output of this system getting started up, and I want to follow those logs. So in other words, show them to me live as they're coming in. So this is 2 commands. We just set them up in one line. We're going to hit enter. It's going to try to start those things up, and it's going to start showing us the logs. Here they are. We're going to give it just a minute because it may take just a minute for it to get started. And it says starting the MongoDB setup. So validating settings in MongoDB NV vars. You set the environment variable, allow empty password, yes. Okay, so it's just letting us know that we did some of that stuff. So it continues to tell us that MongoDB can't create the folder that it wants inside of the folder we've created. So we're just going to change the permissions. If we look at our permissions, well, first let's just remove it, rm-rf, MongoDB data. There we go. And we do an ls there. We see that it's gone. So we're going to do an mkdir MongoDB underscore data. Make sure you spell it correctly. And if we do an ls-al, we'll see here that it's got all the permissions where everybody can write to it except for general, which apparently we need in this case. So we're going to do chmod -R777, which means allow everybody to read, write, and execute on this file. And we're going to give that to /MongoDB data. And now if we do an ls-al, you can see that everybody can read and write, so that's fine. And it highlights it there so you can see that everybody can read and write. And then we're going to do a docker compose up-d and docker compose logs-f. There we go. It just takes a second for Mongo to get started up, but you should see output like this where there's just a lot of JSON data being scrolled up the screen as MongoDB and RocketChat get everything kind of set up in the system for the first time. Eventually it'll kind of slow down like this. It may still kick out some things a little at a time like that. Don't sweat that too much. It should be okay. So we're just going to hit Control-C to stop following those logs. And we can clear that out. And because we've already set up our chat system here, let's just click on it. It still tells us bad gateway. Let's give it just a minute. Alright, so if you give it just a little bit of time, it will eventually get to the point where it wants to launch. And what it wants to know is now for us to set up our user. So I'll blow this up a little bit. It wants our first and last name. And this first user is going to be an administrative user, of course. So pick whatever name makes sense for you. For a professional thing, I always suggest like a first initial last name or just your first name, last initial, something like that. So if I do B. McGonigal, that's great. And then I'm going to put in my email, sysmainit.com, and a password. Of course, I want this to be a nice strong password, so I'll use my password manager to generate that. So I'm going to add this, and it's going to be there. And I'm going to put in BMCGONAGILL, and I'll let this generate my password for me for now. So I'm going to make this longer for sure. And then let's do a passphrase, and let's make that 4 words. And we'll check these boxes. And that looks like a pretty good one. We can refresh if we want something different. Yeah, that's fine. And then we can save. And there we go. We can copy that password, paste it in there, make sure it's nice and long. If you need to see it, you can just click like that to see it. So there you go. And then you should be able to click it again to get it to hide. Yes. Once you click next, it's going to ask you for some organization information. So in this case, it's sysmainit. And then our organizational industry, pick whatever makes sense for your system. Technology services is great. Organization size is definitely 1 to 10 people right now, and our country. I am in the United States. You would, of course, pick wherever you live in the world. And then click next. Finally, we want to register our workspace, so we can put an admin email in here. So I'll put brian@sysmainit.com. And then we'll check this box that says you agree with the terms and conditions, and finally just hit register workspace. It says awaiting confirmation. Here's the security code that they sent me. So I'm just going to grab that. And they said they sent me an email. They want me to verify that the security code here matches the one they sent me in an email. So let's go open up our email and we'll check. So we can just look at these. And they look like they match. So I'm going to say verify registration. And it says email confirmed. All right, we can return to our RocketChat page. So I can just go back over here. And you can see now I'm logged into my RocketChat page, and they bring me to this management console here. So 1, add users. 2, create channels. 3, join rooms. 4, get the mobile apps. 5, the desktop apps. And 6, there's the documentation if you need it. And then you can customize your content. So there's a lot of things you can do with RocketChat. I don't want to go too far into it, but definitely the management side is important. Now 1, adding users. If you have more than just one user, it's going to make a lot more sense to have a chat system. So hopefully that's your thought process behind having this. But of course, having your clients be able to reach out and contact you is important. The other one is adding channels. So you can do that here, but you can also do it over here in the sidebar. It's not something you have to do right here. Joining rooms you can also do from the sidebar. Mobile apps and desktop apps you just do on your own. So we can close this. Let's go click on the general. And you're going to see for the first time it's got a message right here, and it says that I joined the general room. Now, there's a lot of things you can do with these things. So there's this thing that says call. You need to set up something that you can call with. So you need to go through and kind of say, hey, how do you want to do this? It's going to ask you Jitsi included with community, so you can do that. If you're going to pay them, there's some other options out here that you can also get. You can do Google Meet, premium only, and this one's premium only, of course. But here you can see kind of whether there's files, there's pinned messages, you can star messages, notification preferences, you can set up keyboard shortcuts, all kinds of things that are really pretty important and pretty useful to you. So just kind of keep in mind you've got this different kind of levels of control over here. And then over here you've kind of got more controls. So you've got this home location, you can search, and the search is really powerful. You've got your directory. You've got your display, so you can kind of say like, how do you want things? Medium, condensed, extended. Do you want to see avatars over here on the left? You want to see activity, or do you want to see it by name? I like to see activity at the top, so it pops things to the top whenever there's new stuff in there. It's just easier for me to read, but you can switch it to be alphabetical if you want. Do you want to see, like group by unread, favorites, types, things like that? And I would say unread for me. I don't have to group things in any other way, but types is nice, and then unread is great. So I'm going to leave it with that. And then here you've got create new, and finally you've got your option for workspace, your omni-channel, which is kind of a different thing, marketplace, where you can add other applications on top of RocketChat. You can see the installed ones, and you can see the ones that you've requested. So first let's go here, and you can see you can create a new chat message or a discussion, a channel, or a team. So you can create teams within RocketChat, and they can have their own channels and discussions. You can also create channels that different people can join or jump into. That's how I run my RocketChat for my channel here, like my YouTube channel. So I have channels for like Help Me Please and open source and just different things. And the general channel is always there, of course, too. I turned off notifications for the general channel on that one because everybody lands there first and they'll just say hi. And to spam 130, 140, 150 people, 200 people, 300 people, however many people you have with a hi message is not great. So I turned it off there. If you go into the other channels, notifications will come through. You can tag people to notify them specifically still, but just general notifications are off. So you can do that as well. Kind of keep your users in mind as you're setting things up and trying to make it less spammy and more useful. But yeah, channels. So if you want to create a channel, let's just call this Help Me. And I like to just give it a name like that, and then the topic, you can tell it whatever you want. Request help from our team and other users, something like that. And then members, you can add people as members, but you don't have to. I mean, if you want to, you can, and it just automatically adds them, especially your team, to those channels. They don't have to go join those channels. You're kind of doing it for them. Do you want this to be a private channel? In this case, I don't. I want it to be a public channel. And then, do you want it to be federated? Yeah, we could do that if we had it federated already. Encrypted, again, something we could do, but not available for this workspace. Read-only. You could make it read-only where people can't do anything. You can post, but other people can only read it. And then it could be a broadcast channel where you're broadcasting things out. Again, I'm just going to leave that off. So I'm just going to say create. And now we've got our next channel here. So we've got general and we've got help me please. And you can just go through and create as many channels as you want. You can do direct messages to people and everything else. It's just like any other chat system, except it's open source and it's pretty nice to get set up and running. Now at the bottom, you've got a lot of nice little tools here as well for whenever you're typing messages. So you can just type your kind of real quick, one-liners like "this is help channel," and there you go. It shows up. You can put your avatar in there, and they would see that instead of your initial. But you can also do some things where you're kind of giving it a little bit more pizzazz or more flair, I guess. So this is a message with. And then I can hit Shift and Enter to make new lines. And then I can either click on this little thing that says inline code, and you see it makes little backticks for me and puts the cursor between it. That's pretty nice. But you don't have to do that. You can just go back, and then you can just do backtick. And you can say history space pipe space grep rsync. And then hit the little tags again. That little backtick, it's the one on my keyboard. On the US keyboard, it's the one to the left of the one. But when you do that, when you hit, you can see here it comes up more like a terminal command, and somebody can copy that and then paste it in the terminal, and they can see like, oh, this is the thing I should be putting in the terminal. You've got bold, italics, strikeout, you've got the code one, you've got like multi-line code. So if I had a multi-line code thing, click this, it's going to set 3 ticks at the top and 3 ticks at the bottom and my cursor in between. And now I can type out something like function. So something like that would come out and it would look like a function. There you go. So you get this multi-line code. So you can do some pretty nice things. You get all kinds of really cool stuff. You can do KTeX. I haven't done KTeX in forever, so I'm not going to try. You can add audio messages, and if you allow it to use the microphone anyways. I'm doing this all through the browser, by the way. They have desktop apps and mobile apps and things like that you can use as well. All right, you get the idea. It's a chat application. I'm sure you can figure it out. Now, if you go into the workspace area here, you have a bunch of settings. You can see some information about your workspace, which is really great. And this is very useful because sometimes they'll ask you, if you go ask for help on RocketChat forums, they'll say, hey, what version are you using? And you may not even know. You need to go look. Here it is, version 6.10.2, and it says latest. And you can kind of see what things are checked. They may ask you for some of this detail down here as well. So it's right here. It's in your workspace settings, and it's there for you if you need it. Now on your subscription side, again, RocketChat is open source. You can use it for free. This is the community edition that we're using, but they do have subscription models that can let you get more features. So if you see features that you like and you say, wow, that is worth it to me, you can go out there and tell them, hey, I want to subscribe, and you can add those things to your self-hosted service, and you can just get those features. It's pretty great. So you do have some different options, and you can sync your license whenever you change your license if you have to. You can do some different things like that. But you can see a little bit of information here. But out of this, I do get like seats, I guess is what you call it. So I have 25 seats, which is one of 24. So I have 24 left. I don't think there's a limit on how many users can actually be in the system. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know I have more than 25 users in my other RocketChat. But yeah, I mean, if I just want to switch to community and not even mess with it, I think you can just do that as well. Compare plans, cancel subscription. Yeah, so this is telling you like upgrade to get more. So I could just cancel the subscription here. Let's see what this does. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it changed it, and it just tells me, hey, you've got one person on here. You're on community, so it switched it to community, $0 per year. So you can go down there and do that, and you can see basically monthly active contacts. I've got none. Active sessions, 1 out of 200, 199 sessions available. Again, active sessions, yeah, so you can see that the system should grow a bit whenever you change that to community. And then moderation, so you can moderate things. If you're worried about what people are posting on your site, things like that, you can moderate it. There's nothing here to moderate right now because we haven't added anything. Here's our room. So if you need to go in and change a room, edit a room, close a room, whatever, you can do that from the rooms control. Same thing for users as you get more users. Now RocketCat is just a default bot that they use to send out notifications like, hey, you need to update your RocketChat server. So it's not a bad thing to have, so don't mess with it. Invites, if you send out invites, you'd see those here. User status, if there's anybody online. And then you've got this permission section that is unbelievably huge. This thing is just the checkbox grid from hell, and if you don't believe me, it goes this way too. But the cool part is you can set up like, this is my admin, and here are his permissions. But this is one page of permissions. This thing has 8 pages of permission. No, of 100. Yeah, so 184 different things that you can set as permissions for somebody. So right here you can have auto translate for admins. You can have all kinds of things, bypass, time limit, all kinds of stuff you can set up for your different users. Really tons. And you can set this per user role. And then I believe you can also add roles and then set permissions on those roles. So there's a lot to it. There's also settings where you can kind of look at like, hey, what things do admins have? So for settings wise, what can we do? And again, multiple pages of that. So that's really something for you guys to go through. It's not something I can go through in this video for sure, but know that it's here and it's extremely powerful, but extremely full of things you need to go through and look at individually. Device management, again, this is only if you have the premium version. Email inboxes, so you can set up email inboxes to do some things inside of RocketChat as well. It's not something I'm going to go into right now, but we can look at it later. Mailer, so if you do want to mail things out, you have the option to set up some templates and things like that you might want to mail out to people. So now you have integrations. Now there's incoming integrations where you can add things that are coming into the system and doing something. There's outgoing where the system is sending something out to somebody else. Then there's Zapier right here, so you saw that earlier. And then bots, if you want to set up bots. So incoming and outgoing are really useful. Incoming, you can set up like webhooks to do things and stuff like that. It's pretty great, pretty useful to be able to do that with a lot of stuff as well. Outgoing, if you need like a certain channel gets a message and you want that to send to something else, you can do that. It's all there. Just know that it's there. It'll take you some time to learn how to set these things up. It's, again, not things I can just cover in one video, but I want you to know what all's here. And then you've got kind of the more generalized settings that go along with all of this stuff. So you've got account settings, you've got analytics settings, you've got assets, you've got, again, a scrollable section of things that you really need to come in and go through to understand what all this can do. So it's got WebRTC setup that you can do. It's got user data download to help be compliant with GDPR stuff. It's got SMS setup if you want to do something with different SMS vendors. It's got Smarsh. I'm not really sure what that does, but I think it does something that helps with email kind of things. You've got bridges, so you've got the Slack bridge, you've got threads, you've got voice channels, you've got WebDAV integration. You've got all kinds of things here that definitely worth looking at. Now they've got a SAML integration, which is pretty great. So we may look at doing that one to try and set up some things with our authentic system. And then here we've got OAuth. So if we open this up, you're going to see there's a bunch of OAuth providers already. There's Apple, Dolphin, Drupal, Facebook, GitHub, GitHub Enterprise, GitLab, Google, LinkedIn, Meteor, which is what this is built on essentially, Nextcloud, Proxy, TokenPass, Twitter, and WordPress. Now, you'll notice they don't have Keycloak, Authentic, or any of the others. I don't know why. A custom OAuth right there. So you can add a custom OAuth and then go in and set up your OAuth using Authentic as well. So we'll go through that, like I said, in a separate video, but I wanted you to know it's here. You have a retention policy. So if you don't want to keep chats forever, because it does build up over time, especially if you have a very chatty board, over a bit of time, you can get gigs of data in there that you may not want to have all of that because it's not that relevant anymore. Maybe you want to get rid of logs after, get rid of chats after like 6 months or something. You can go in and set that up here. All right, that is RocketChat. We have got it set up. We have got it ready. It's running. We've got it behind our proxy. We've got it running through our VPN from our proxy, and we've got it where everybody can get in and start using it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the open source journey with us. And I'll talk to you next time.